All right, we're rolling. Okay. Oh, shit. Let me do this here. Hey guys, welcome to the Spark Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with my friend and wing member and everything, Erika De La Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Gwen. I'm excited. We're in like the cutest little space this morning.
I know, it's so different because usually we do these virtually, but me and Erika go to the same co-working space in WeHo, which is right down the street from where she lives, and we're like, let's just do this in person.
Yeah, girl, I woke up, had some coffee, and shot over. We're looking at the Hollywood Hills. It's a beautiful weekday. I'm excited.
Awesome. So for those of you listening, you may not see the video, but the video will be available on IGTV and YouTube, so you guys can watch us there if you want to see the quirkiness in person.
If you want to see all the glory, all the brunettness.
Oh my gosh. So if you've been following me for a while, you see Erika on my feed. I was at her wedding, her bachelorette weekend in Hawaii. But for those of the people who are listening who have not encountered your magic yet,
I love you.
How would you introduce yourself?
I mean, I'm Erika De La Cruz. It's nice to meet you if we haven't connected previously. I love Gwen, and it's a perfect place to start because we really met and started the journey a couple of years ago now when, this is so crazy, I can't believe it's like the anniversary coming up. We had a best-selling book come out in the personal development space, very girl boss-esque. It was called Passionistas, Tips, Tales, and Tweetables from Women Pursuing Their Dreams. It was co-published with the publishers from the Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneur Soul series, and so we met on that. Well, a little bit. We met around that.
Yeah.
So for context, I have a book in the space. The book really led to an event that I put on now. The book was so in the personal development space, and I am and has been traditionally in the broadcasting space. So television, media, hosting, red carpets. I loved that part of my world. So I sort of combined the two, and now I run an annual event called Passion to Paycheck. And it really stemmed from the Passionistas audience in combination with all the television and media, public figures, and personalities that I know and love. So once a year, we get together in the heart of West Hollywood. We talk, openly, transparently, and vulnerably about what these public figures that we're watching on television are actually going through and how to take the steps to build a personal brand, really just become yourself for a living. So yeah, I think that's like a little synopsis.
Yeah, I mean, Erika does a lot of things. It's kind of typical to LA and for people online. We do a variety of things, so it's really hard when people are like, well, so what do you do,
so
right?
What do you do? Yeah.
So when people ask you that when you go to like a networking event, how do you even explain that?
So it depends, right? If it's like a passing, that it's like, how's the weather conversation, right. I'll say, oh, I'm primarily in television. I run a personal brand and an annual event.
That's it.
You're done. Exactly it.
Yeah, because you don't want to give them TMI either.
You don't want to go, you don't want to dive into it. It's pretty self-explanatory. If we do have something in common, it'll either be, oh, an annual event, what kind? Or they'll say television, what are you working on? Or they'll say personal brand, are you an influencer? So right. It's kind of the perfect three-part, and everybody who runs a personal brand, if you're starting one, even if you have a commodity but you're sort of the face of it, you should know in those 3 bullet points which to pull out and when. For instance, I'll go more entrepreneurial personal development if I'm in a business setting, primarily for that. In the media space, they really just want to hear about Passion to Paycheck and the people I've worked with and kind of the red carpets coming up. So then I'll hone in on that stuff.
Right. It's really about knowing who you're talking to and what they would be interested in.
Exactly. No, and it's so funny because so many people think that networking, quote unquote, building relationships and connecting is about you and how you show up and who you are and what you have to say. But it's so much so the opposite. It's who you're speaking to, get into their world, have you listened to them, and are you perceptive, kind of emotionally intelligent enough to figure out what areas you would even want to chat about or ask about, or take the time to at least read the person non-verbally. So many people forget that part.
You do. I feel like there's so much into talking about themselves that they don't realize that person's trying to match up what can you guys talk about or what can you network about. Right.
And I'll add that it's not bad and wrong that we do that, because as human beings, we are the center of our lives.
Yes.
We're like, if you're walking around with something on your face for an hour, you think that every person you've spoken with, every person that has seen you walking down the street now thinks you're a total idiot. And in reality, they didn't even notice, because naturally our world revolves around our self-concept. So.
Right. I mean, speaking of what you revolve around, your passions, I want to talk more about that. What are your passions, Erika?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy. It's so cool to be able to first explain what I do in the world and then be asked that question, because they're really, really congruent. They're one and the same. My biggest belief is that you are rewarded in your lifetime if you pursue what you're passionate about. So naturally, I'm really, really passionate about connecting with human beings, about sharing myself, sharing my life with others, sharing my interests, sharing these funny moments in hopes that someone can relate. Because I feel like people are seen when they feel related to, and when they feel that connection. So this little being my best self for a living stemmed because I found all these things I'm passionate about, and I decided to start sharing it, whether that be on social platforms, vlogging, live at the event, in a book. And then I get to ask other people what they're passionate about, which is really the media side of what I do. So I'm really passionate about sharing, having others share, and inside of that, building this connection and this space to be seen. Because when people are seen and heard, depression is at a decrease. You feel like someone knows you, and to be known is such a special thing. So I feel like the overarching passion of mine is to have more of that, specifically in Hollywood, in my industry, in my world. There's so much gossip everywhere. I'm like, how can we hone in on this? And then I have tiny passions of the dancing and fashion. I love fashion. It's a huge part of my world. And then I love my other half, who I just married. Gwen mentioned she was on that journey with me. So it's funny because my relationship is a huge part of not only my world and my interests, but also my brand. He doesn't mind. He's very the opposite to me, but he doesn't mind popping into an event, becoming the arm candy, or even appearing on an Instagram story now and again. So that's a big part of my life too. Family, love, changing the narrative on Hispanic culture in the media too. Lots of these little passions. And if you go to any one of my platforms right now, you'll probably find what I'm talking about somehow woven into the brand. So.
Right, because you can't help not talking about what you're passionate about.
Yeah, and it's funny because what I believe separates brands that flourish and expand from those who kind of die on the vine is, to be frank, is originality and authenticity. And you cannot authentically build something if you're not authentically passionate about it. So yeah, naturally it leaks into what you're doing. I know for your LA girl group, I will never forget looking through and I'm like, this is all the stuff that Gwen loves to do.
Yes.
And it was just duplicated in the group. And I'm like, I wish we bonded on hiking. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be joining an LA girl.
She's not invited in any of the hikes.
I'm more of an indoor girl for those listening, watching.
But really, it is about what you said. It's like self-awareness.
Yeah.
If you're not passionate about something and you try to talk about it, they're going to feel the energy that you're not that into it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And they're going to feel like it's a push and a strain. And the perfect example as well is as you grow and you do interviews or you're involved in other projects, I used to feel like I had to go and do so much research on the subject. For instance, the shootings just happen. And in my world, a lot of the times things that are topical in society will be asked about. And when I was asked about that, now I know that I don't have to go into gun control laws. I can speak to what I'm actually authentically passionate about and what I actually believe, which is we need more love, we need more empathy, we need more connection, we need more, oh, me too, I went through that. And that speaks to the subject just as well as if I would have researched something, except it lands really authentically because that's what I really believe. So
right.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone that is like, I don't really know what I'm passionate about? Like, how can someone start the discovery of their passions?
So I feel like self-expression is a really, really big one. So if you're trying to figure out what it is that you're passionate about, before figuring out how to connect the dots on monetizing it and generating revenue, just start throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. That is where I started and so many others. And it's like, start posting about things or sharing things or writing things or building things or whatever it is that you do in your field or industry, start doing it small scale. Because a lot of people go and take the time, they pick one thing, they build it out completely, and then they hope it works.
Yeah.
But the real like entrepreneurial mentality of how to business build and eventually be yourself for a living, aka make money as well, is starting small scale, making sure it works, testing it out. Like, where is that event or that social media group or that email chain or even that group text thread where you can throw these little ideas at the wall, because one will stick, and then you can sort of let that guide you in terms of following that path and building out the specific thing that kind of worked. It worked for them and it worked for you. The other thing that I see is people build things out and then lose drive for them because they weren't authentically passionate about it. So I would say, like, stir your pot of ideas, start testing small. Like, hey mom, hey best friend, whoever that person is, whatever your inner circle looks like, or even your smaller social circle, figure out what works by testing it first. And then when it rings true to you, you might know authentically, oh, I'm passionate about that. And it's landed with someone else, so it could be successful inside of pursuing that passion as something tangible. So, yeah.
Awesome. Speaking of circles, you and I talk about this a lot because we are all about being the same energy, being with people who want to see you succeed.
Juju,
so
align.
What do you recommend to people who are trying to look for that circle of people that they want to vibe with, that they can, throw ideas to see if, it's something that they should pursue? What is your recommendation for people who are looking for that circle?
Yeah, 100%. So I have the perfect tip that's tangible. There's one like, oh, feel who you feel good, like who do you feel good around, who motivates you, gravitate toward those people. That should be your rule of thumb. But more tangibly even, look online, do your research. I know it sounds crazy because there's been this old stigma of like, let me go on to meetup.com to find friends. That's not a stigma. That's a freaking skill set.
That's a great strategy.
Exactly. That's a strategy. That is how I built a lot of the community and the lasting friendships I have, is by showing up, whether that be in person, to events, popping into the chat boxes inside groups that I found online. It's part of a ton of Facebook groups, entrepreneurial masterminds and programs. I know that you run them, Gwen. Passion and Paycheck. Every year at my event, the same human being comes to play. And those same human beings collaborate all year because they're all there because they share common interests. And I like to think that it's a space for total support. So they have the same mentality of supporting one another. Nothing's off limits. They get really vulnerable down and, into the nitty gritty of what they're feeling at the event. And then recently, there's also an adjacent Facebook group for Passion to Paycheck. So now that there's a community living online, I'm seeing even more connections happen and people relating. And even me, I run all of this, so it's difficult for me to get to everyone. But through these groups, through this Facebook group and even newsletters a lot of the time, because you can directly reply, I'm getting to see what the community members are up to. I'm getting to plug them in to job opportunities. I'm getting to see one of our girls just started with Facebook corporate. I would have never known that if I tried to sort of check in with everyone a la carte, if that makes sense. So I'd say join a group, a tangible community, and we have to go through them. Like Gwen and I have talked about this. There will be communities that maybe don't ring your bell. They'll also, being that you're building big, if you're listening to this, if you're tuned in, chances are you're building something big and you're meant for it. Inside of building something big, a lot of contrast may happen. You might meet people who want to keep you small, and it could be in their subconscious. You know, maliciousness is not always the case. It's just they have this mediocrity and this neutrality that wants to bring you back down to earth, back down to that level, and you don't feel like you're expanding in their space. Watch out for that, because I always rolled my eyes. I thought it was such a stereotype, and that won't happen to me. I'm too good energy, good juju. And it's like I said, there's not a malicious component often. Sometimes it's just who the person is. It's what their capacity is to see what it is you're building. Like, don't worry about being seen by people who can't see you. Don't spend your time trying to like wave your hands and go to the top of the mountain so that someone who you're interested in hanging out with will see what you're up to and will believe in you. That's a waste of time. Like, just forego that opportunity, and should your paths meet, it would be meant to be, and go find people who already identify, support, or at least cheerlead what you're up to. Cheerleading is the biggest form of connection for me. Like, I would say stay in those groups, stay in those circles who are just genuinely happy for you. Maybe they don't know too much about your industry, but they're cheering you on. You underestimate sometimes the power of that cheerleading component inside your social circles. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're each other's cheerleaders.
Oh, God.
Like, we always share wins on text, like, we tell each other. And, like, I genuinely feel like everything that's good that comes to each of us, like, spreads out to everyone else.
100%. Like, you can't expand alone.
Yes.
So stop trying to. If you are, I'm the guinea pig, and I'm sure so many others are. You're going to eventually realize, oh, I need other people to get as big as I want to get, to leave the footprint, the mark, and build out what I'm building to the capacity I'm meant to. Can't do it alone, so find your humans.
So we're going to link over to the Passion to Paycheck community. We'll share both our groups, and you will find a great group of people there. And I feel like, you know, we attract the people that are meant to be around us. Yeah. And so I think that you will find between me and Erika's groups a great group of people to start with. And then just like each group that I've been to, like, you don't like everybody. You pick your people. Just like me and Erika.
We met in a group. I know. And it's crazy, but you know, maybe we haven't stayed in touch with everyone in the group, but surely something beautiful came from it. So
yes, awesome. So you mentioned earlier, you know, the making money part, the paycheck part. We talked about the passion part. I want to transition over to the paycheck because I feel like that's the big thing that you know kind of stops people sometimes from pursuing their passions, and people want to see people like us who are getting paid. Yeah. To pursue our passion. So let me just ask you, where does your paycheck come from, Erika?
Yeah, girl. So my paycheck comes from many places. And that is one of the biggest lessons that I learned is I had always heard the most successful people in the world have multiple streams of income.
I think it's 7.
Yeah. So I had heard that, but I really didn't take it to heart until I met my business partner, my partner on the book. He's been in the game for years beyond us, and he was very successful. His business partner forever is the man who trained Tony Robbins, who trained all of these speakers you're hearing, to the Tai Lopez's of the world. So he very quickly said, you know, like, have those multiple lanes, those multiple avenues, those multiple streams of income, and don't be afraid to feel confident in them, because I used to feel like, how do people have all these streams? Wouldn't they feel scattered? No, you feel more safe, because if one stream crashed tomorrow, you'd still have the other ones inbound. So I'll say that. The other side of this is my personal streams of income, I've been so fortunate to have learned this art of collaboration and partnership, because a lot of my revenue generation comes from simply referring the people who I've specifically worked with, these business programs, particularly in selling, and all of these programs that I enrolled in to learn business. I resonated so heavily and deeply with them that I will now forever be their cheerleader. And there's something called affiliate marketing, where if I am having inbound my audience asking, how do I do X, Y, and Z? I could easily funnel them / refer them to someone I've worked with, someone I believe in, and in turn, once they decide to say yes, there is a cut that comes back to me, and it's in total integrity because I've actually done the programs.
Yep.
With that, I continue to coach myself. Coming up here, there'll probably be a way for the general public and masses to connect. I am creating something like that. For now, I only take literally 3 to 4 clients for the year. We do media, we do mindset, a lot of mindset and media, taking action and building this personal brand in terms of shining the spotlight on what you're doing. So I do a lot of that coaching. I also have the event each year. We tie in our sponsorship model, which I love. We just signed with Bumble Biz this year. So we continue to build that out, and I'm excited for that. And then a lot of the stuff that I'm up to comes from carpets, television, hosting, contracts with networks that I have going, contracts that I have annually. I just know October is going to be this huge month because I do so much inside of the film industry that takes place there. So yeah, lots of influencer partnerships that I'm doing right now that I know didn't seem possible when I was starting out. Like, I know they didn't. It's so incredible, all of these things popping up inside of my social media platforms, hosting, and I know that I have all of those buckets and they're always coming in. So make sure that you have like 2 to 3 steady streams that you are thinking up, that you're dreaming up. But the important part is make sure that you have those certain months of the year where you're just working on how that's happening. For me, how many people am I going to refer between July and August? Because I know that I have so many partnerships. So yeah, I also do speaking. I show up to my business partners coaching, and we've collaborated on a lot of short-term weekends. So I will show up, I'll impart wisdom for 3 to 4 days. There'll be tons of amazing humans enrolled. So there's a lot of different like programs and ways to access me, if you will.
Yeah, it's so funny because people always ask us that question. They're always wondering, like, how do you have free time during the weekdays and still make money? Girl, we don't live on a paycheck.
Hell no.
Traditional paychecks.
If you build out one, and this is what I love my business partner because this is what he originally taught me. Like, if you spend a few months to build out a huge weekend, that could set you up for the rest of the year. And
yes.
It's never been more of the truth. And then the other like component that I think has given me the competitive advantage, which is accessible to everyone. You'll learn more about it in my program that is coming up here later this year, is the mental component of making money. Manifestation, believing that it's all coming. It sounds cliche, but I've managed to somehow align myself with that, and I promise you the universe is going to deliver if your action comes with mental alignment and emotional alignment as well. It's just magic. It's juju. It's like, it's magic and juju. And I don't teach, like, a lot of my clients, or especially boss babes, the passionistas, will be like, I'm in debt. How do I get myself out of debt? And I'm like, look, I've gotten myself completely out of debt from so much, like college loans. That was all me. I don't advise specifically on it because the route that I took was so magical. It's exactly what we're talking about. I chose to pursue what I was passionate about. The salary came, the positions came, the health insurance came, and that's something that you can't teach directly to debt, but you can teach the mindset and mental component to have that better luck and those better opportunities appearing for you. So
Right. Or a lot of people right now, they're afraid, right? They're afraid of, giving up the job, turning their passion into that paycheck. What would you tell someone right now who's like, is stuck in their job that they're not fulfilled with and they want to do something else? How can they take the leap?
Yeah. So, gosh, I feel like the first thing, and you'll notice it's always my default, is to start relating to your job as your investor, not the shackles that you have to, walk into daily. Once you've transformed that mindset, because I personally used to be a marketing director in a very high-end,
both marketing directors,
high-end entercom broadcasting, second to iHeart and CBS Media. I was there. I was corporate, and at that 1.5 year mark, I was like, oh, unfulfilled. And once I started relating to this awesome thing that paid me to transition into what I wanted to do, I started really getting excited about it. And you need excitement, in my opinion, to take inspired action.
Yeah.
So if you're afraid, first I would shift that mental component of how you're relating to your job. Like, your job is the luckiest thing you've ever had. Then once you're at that neutral space with it, you could choose for it to, you have a few different options. Is it going to fund your transition out? What is the date that you have to transition out? Who is your support system? That, going back to that social circle we were talking about, I managed to make this beautiful group, friend group of entrepreneurs at the time that I was going to transition out of corporate. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to build a personal brand. And they're like, yeah. All I needed to hear was that to start taking these steps. So the real thing is, if you're afraid, think of turning that fear emotion into regret emotion. Don't let it go there. Like, it's never too late. You have one life. You have one life on this planet. And at the end, whatever you believe in, they're not going to ask you, why weren't you Mother Teresa on earth? Why weren't you, Joseph reincarnate? They're going to ask you, why weren't you true to you? And it should be the most important value to you. Like, that is my most important value. That's my hubby's most important value is, are you fulfilled in what you're doing? And if you're not, how can you pivot? Because the universe is going to reward you. And fear is going to stop you. It's going to, increase the procrastination in your life. It's going to shift your mindset. It's going to shift your traction point to other things that are exciting that can happen for you. So I would say watch things like this. Meet people like us. Go to groups that are accessible online and get that support so that you can take the damn leap. And honestly, sometimes it's like this nurturing, you can do it. And sometimes it's this, this form of this badass coaching where you need it. You need to hear it. You need to hear that the only thing we all have in common is that life ends. And if that struck you, maybe that's the kind of motivation that you need, because you either need to get your ass kicked or you need a hug. But whichever motivation, both. I love both. I'm a fan of both. Whichever it is, like, get up, get going. Like, you're seeing real life examples of being able to do what you love for a living and make the money in the process. So get up, get going, stop being afraid. It's holding you back, keeping you small.
Now is the time, right? Exactly. I mean, we're cheerleading you right now. Like, if you were listening to this right now, if you were watching this is your call to action.
It's your moment, baby.
This is it.
Like, this isn't just something that you listened to. It isn't something that you watched and maybe it would make a difference. That's your decision. That's your decision. And the difference between, like, I always do this. It's called winner circle. The difference between winners and maybe the opposite is that winners choose to have everything that they consume impact them for the greater good. Whether that's negative, whatever you're taking into your life, this is actually happening. This isn't just something that you watched. This is it. Like, whatever's in your mind, whatever action it is that you think you should take, that you know in your heart you're called to, take the next step immediately after this. Like, just or during this, take it right now. Give yourself that mental note, schedule whatever it is in your calendar, email yourself, just get it somewhere.
Love that. Okay, so this is your chance. Now it's your choice to decide if you're going to go back to your old life or you're going to start this new life where you are going to pursue your passions just like Erika and I have, and then we'll link to everything so you can start connecting with people just like you in our groups. Everything is available to you, and it's up to you to go and pursue that. So Erika, thank you so much for joining us today.
I love you.
I love this in person.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so it's so crazy because even though we're in person,
I know
it looks like my backdrop is blue, hers is white, and it looks
like we're not. We're in the same place.
See?
You guys, look.
All right. Yeah,
Awesome.
and just remember, we love you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.